Hi, you guys. Miss Nelson here for the final lesson of Unit 8. Today, our objective is what are the causes and consequences of global warming? Now, in order to have that conversation, first we have to talk about the difference between weather and climate. Up until this point, we've mostly been talking about weather. So, what's the difference? Well, weather is the day-to-day conditions of the atmosphere. So if you open your phone and you look at the temperature for the day, or the precipitation, the wind, those are the day-to-day conditions of the atmosphere. So for example, today at 8 a.m., the temperature is 41 degrees Fahrenheit. The climate is the average weather conditions usually averaged over 30 years. So, for example, if you were to take the temperature every single day in Yonkers over 30 years and average it, that would be the climate of Yonkers. You could do the same thing with the amount of rain that has fallen or the wind. So, what causes global warming is primarily the greenhouse effect. What is it? First, we have solar energy entering the atmosphere. So if we take a look at this diagram, to imagine that the surface is the Earth, and that somewhere above we have the sun with energy coming in. Solar energy is just energy from the sun. Once energy comes into our atmosphere, there are two options of things that can happen to that energy. The first is that some of that energy is re-radiated by the Earth. That means that it essentially bounces off the Earth and goes back into space. But most of that energy is actually going to stay trapped inside by greenhouse gases. And it cannot escape back into space. With that energy trapped inside, that makes our atmosphere warmer and warmer and warmer. This is the greenhouse effect. It's greenhouse gases causing our atmosphere to become warmer over time. There are three main greenhouse gases that can trap energy from the sun inside. The first is carbon dioxide, the second is methane, and the third is water vapor. So, how do we get carbon dioxide? Well, breathe. That air that comes out, that is carbon dioxide. Luckily, trees breathe that in. This is why one of the reasons we love trees is that they absorb that carbon dioxide and take it out of our atmosphere so that our atmosphere doesn't get that much warmer. Where does methane come from? Well, partially from factories, but also the farts of cows, believe it or not. Cows fart a lot. And if you add up every single cow across the globe and how much they fart, that actually is a lot of methane. So much so that scientists have studied how much methane cow farts cause by themselves. And it is quite a bit. The third important greenhouse gas, is water vapor. This is the gas that makes up the clouds in our sky. So, a reminder of how the greenhouse effect works. We have already there's some greenhouse gases in our atmosphere just naturally, from cow farts, from animals breathing, the water vapor that was naturally in our atmosphere. They're all are already some greenhouse gases, and that's okay. It's actually good. Without those greenhouse gases, the surface of our Earth would be too cold to live on. We want a certain amount of greenhouse gases to trap heat inside so that it's livable on our Earth. The problem is once we introduce factories and cars, we increase the amount of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere by a lot, which cause the heat to go way up. You can think of it sort of like a car on a sunny day. So, on a sunny day, the energy from the sun will pass through the car's windshield and come inside the car. But that heat is going to be trapped inside. And unless there's a windshield open, that car just gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And unfortunately, babies and animals die every year because they're cooking inside their hot car. Parents will leave their baby or their dog inside as they go grocery shopping and come back to find them dead, completely cooked inside. Greenhouse gases sort of act like a windshield. They cause heat to stay inside. You don't want that to be too strong, otherwise you'll cook. So this brings us to our definition of global warming. Global warming is the increase of Earth's average surface temperature due to a buildup of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Without greenhouse gases in our atmosphere, or that buildup of greenhouse gases man-made, the temperature has not changed that much. In fact, over the last 100 years, it's only changed 0.75 degrees Fahrenheit. But because we have so many cars, so many factories now, over the next 100 years, scientists predict that the Earth's temperature can rise another 6 degrees. Here we have a graph of the temperatures changing over time. What do you notice? The temperatures are always changing, going up and down, but at a certain point, temperatures really started rising overall. Can you find where? When did temperatures start rising? Here. Around 1910, overall, the trend of temperatures started rising a lot. Why then? Well, the Industrial Revolution was in full swing. This is about when we had the first car that was widely available, the Model T. Once everyday citizens started getting cars, that started releasing a lot of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere, and we have seen the effects of that ever since. So, what causes global warming? A lot of human activities are set to increase the global temperature. For example, deforestation. We have cut down so many trees worldwide, so many forests. Remember, those trees took in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So without them, we have more carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. Secondly, we have an overdependence on livestock. We now have more cows worldwide than we did before. That's more farts of methane. And lastly, most importantly, burning of fossil fuels. That comes from factories and cars. We burn a lot of oil and fossil fuels that releases carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. What does that mean? what is global warming going? What are the consequences of global warming? The first is glaciers and ice caps will melt. As it gets hotter and hotter, the ice in our world is going to melt. That's going to cause sea levels to rise and massive flooding will occur. So these are real pictures and models. The first on your left shows what it looked like in 1909. And as you can see, there's a major glacier that by 2004 has completely melted. That causes sea level to rise. So now if you look to our right, we have a model of what's going to occur as the global temperature rises up 4 degrees Celsius. The sea level will rise and wipe out huge portions of Florida. Anywhere on the coast is at risk, including New York City. Soon, New York City, unless we do something, might be completely underwater. We also get changing weather patterns. So, hot, dry weather actually led to a record-setting year in 2006, where we had close to 100,000 fires reported and nearly 10 million acres burned. You might be able to think of some wildfires that occurred even this year. It has only gone up. The other changing weather patterns in some places have experienced more flooding. Other places have experienced more droughts. Effects on our health. So in July 2006, there were heat waves that went across all of North America, and it contributed to the death of at least 225 people. When a heat wave hits the United States, it tends to affect poor communities without AC, and without such the ability to leave a community. So this is a huge problem, especially in urban areas. I remember when I was little in Chicago, there was a heat wave across Chicago that in one weekend killed 200 people because the heat was so bad and many people died in their apartments. It was so hot. Unfortunately, with global warming, heat waves are going to occur more and more frequently. Lastly, the extinction of wildlife. Scientists report that some polar bears are drowning because they have to swim longer distances to reach ice. Unless we take effective action now, the polar bears will likely become extinct in Alaska by 2050. Polar bears survive by swimming to search for fish, but then they'll rest on icebergs in the ocean. Unfortunately, there's not as many icebergs in the ocean, and thus polar bears keep swimming and swimming, and eventually, exhausted, they drown. So, how can we slow global warming? There are many ways. But for example, we could carpool or ride bikes or walk. By taking the bus, that's helpful too because it's a lot of people in one vehicle, not using as much gas per person. Turn off electronics when you're not using them. Don't leave them plugged in. In order to form electricity, we have to burn fossil fuels, or that's how we currently form most of our electricity. So turning off electricity is helpful. Lastly, we could adjust appropriately for the weather instead of raising the heat or AC. All right, for your exit ticket, I want you to create a multi-flow thinking map showing the causes and consequences of global warming. Include pictures. So, on the left, you can put the causes of global warming. What causes global warming? And on the right, the arrows leading off of global warming, you can put the consequences. What is going to occur in our world because global warming is occurring? Your test is going to be posted Tuesday, so stay tuned. Hope you guys are all still healthy and safe. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.